Outset, I would like to, as always, offer my loving and humble pranams to Bhagwan Baba for blessing me with the opportunity to narrate this famous epic over Radio Sai. Sai Ram, dear listeners, and greetings to all of you from Prasanthi Nilayam. Before I do anything else, I should express my deepest gratitude to all of you who took the trouble to write back. As I mentioned earlier, in making an appeal for responses, it was not my intention to fish for compliments. Rather, like anyone addressing an audience, I was keen to get a feedback about the impact and whether any changes were needed from my side. Thanks to all the replies that I have received, we now do have some idea of the pluses and minuses, and believe me, that helps us a lot. If you are a regular listener to any non-commercial broadcast service, you would have noticed that they always welcome what they call bouquets and brickbats. Working as I do at this end of the broadcast chain, I know very well how feedback helps. It is thanks to this that we have been able to do a lot of tweaking to improve our services. Obviously, we still have miles to go, which is why we would keep on requesting you for specific comments, observations, and thoughts about all our programs, including, of course, this one. Once again, my grateful thanks for your wonderful and gracious letters. Keep them pouring in. Let me now get back to the narrative proper and briefly recall where I cut off last time. It was with the scene where Dadimukha, the uncle of Sugriva, who was also the caretaker of the wonderful grove Madhuvana in the southern part of Kishkinda, made an unexpected appearance in Sugriva's court to complain about how that beautiful grove was laid to waste by a huge group of Vanaras, led by Angada himself. Also, how in the process the Vanaras severely injured many of the guards who tried to stop this rampage. When Dadimukha was making his complaint to Sugriva, Lakshmana was there nearby, but he could not follow the Vanara dialect. And so he asked Sugriva, "Why have all these monkeys come here? What is this monkey who appears to be the leader of the group that has come here saying to you? He appears to be injured. Why?" Sugriva replied, "Lakshmana, the one that is speaking to me is named Dadimukha, and he is actually my uncle. He is in charge of a huge and valuable grove named Madhuvana in the south, and he has come here to report that the Vanaras and Rangada forced their way into the Madhuvana and drank so much honey that they became totally intoxicated. They then went on a rampage, wrecking everything in sight. That, of course, is bad news. But I suspect that the Vanaras, who are otherwise quite disciplined, must have had success in their mission and were merely celebrating, no doubt in a reckless manner. To put it simply, I think the team under Angada has found Sita. And that feat must surely have been accomplished by Hanuman, for there is none other who could do that." Those words were sweet music to Lakshmana's ears, and no wonder. Turning to Dadimukha, Sugriva then said, "Dear uncle, I well understand how you feel. Yes, such reckless behavior of the Vanaras and the destruction they have caused in Madhuvana is, under normal circumstances, totally unacceptable. However, you are not aware of the great triumph they have achieved while executing a command of mine. So outstanding is their achievement that I feel an exception must be made in this case and their excesses tolerated. Forget the past, be calm, and go back to doing your duty with the same passion and devotion as before. Meanwhile, please dispatch without any delay Hanuman and the rest of the Vanaras. When they come, I shall, along with Rama and Lakshmana here, closely interrogate them and get all the details about the mission I set for them. Once again, I commend your commitment to duty. When you go out, please send the Vanaras. That was what Sugriva said to Dadimukha, and feeling greatly encouraged by Sugriva's soothing words, Dadimukha bowed respectfully to Rama and Lakshmana also and withdrew, promptly returning to Madhuvana. Encountering Angada on the way, Dadimukha said to him, I am sorry there has been some trouble between us due to a misunderstanding. When I reported to our king what happened here earlier, instead of being offended by your actions, he took it as a clear sign of the success achieved by your team in the tough assignment he had set for you. King Sugriva then briefly explained the circumstances and advised me to ignore what happened. I now appreciate that having been on an exhausting mission, all of you were pretty tired when you reached Madhuvana. As such, it was only natural that you began to drink all the honey you could find. At that time, I was not aware of this background, which is why I tried to obstruct you and also the members of your valiant team. Moreover, I did not appreciate that as the crown prince, in a sense, you are actually the owner of the grove. Now that I am better informed, I am truly sorry for what happened. For your part, I trust you would be magnanimous and forget what happened, besides pardoning us for attacking the members of your team. Reacting to Dadimukha's observations, Angada turned to the Vanaras and said, It appears that when the god of the grove was reporting to Sugriva, Rama and Lakshmana were also present to hear the news of our arrival. This means we must not linger here any longer and rush immediately to Kishkinda. Addressing Hanuman specifically, Angada then said, Even though I am the crown prince, truly speaking, I am not competent to give any orders to you. I think it is you who should decide what we ought to do next. Feeling totally overwhelmed, Hanuman responded, O Prince, who in the world would speak with such magnanimity and kindness when it is a norm for people in high positions to be full of ego and arrogance? There is no question that all of us want to return immediately to Kishkinda. However, we will not take one step unless commanded by you. Deeply moved, Angada replied, It is clear that all of us want to do the same thing. So let's get going immediately. That was all that was needed for the Vanaras, and with one big leap they took off towards Kishkinda. Meanwhile, Sugriva, who was eagerly awaiting the arrival of the Vanaras, said to Rama, Take heart. There is absolutely no doubt that Angada's team has located Sita. Otherwise, they would not have dared to return, having hugely exceeded the stipulated time limit. And the damage caused to Madhuvana, just reported to me by the guard in charge, confirms my belief. The Vanaras would not have dared to indulge in such reckless frolicking had they not met with spectacular success. Sita has undoubtedly been found, and I am certain that it was Hanuman who achieved that feat. Even as Sugriva finished speaking, they heard huge roars, clearly the cries of a triumphant team making a victorious entry into Kishkinda and heading towards the palace. Flying in a spectacular formation, the entire Vanara group slowly descended and landed before Sugriva, with Angada and Hanuman in the front. Naturally, the return of Angada's team, though somewhat late, electrified the entire kingdom of Kishkinda, a mood of joy and ecstasy replacing that of anxiety and concern that dominated until then. Soon, all the Vanaras assembled before Sugriva, Rama and Lakshmana. By common consent and for obvious reasons, Hanuman had already been selected as the spokesperson for the entire team. Offering his respects, bowing deeply and with palms joined, Hanuman directly addressed Rama and said in a reverential tone, "O Rama, I bear good tidings. Sita has been found." As Hanuman spoke those historic words, elders like Jambavan nodded in approval. Consumed as he was with deep anxiety, a long and rambling sequential narrative of suspense and drama was the last thing that Rama wanted. And being shrewd, Hanuman offered precisely the appropriate headline. Hearing the carefully chosen words spoken by Hanuman, Rama, Lakshmana, Sugriva, and indeed all the rest who had been anxiously waiting back in Kishkinda heaved a huge sigh of relief. The anxiety and the tension of the long wait having disappeared, the entire assembly now prepared to listen to Hanuman's narrative. Since the story of the search was expected to be somewhat long, everyone moved to Mount Prasravana, full of beautiful woods, in order to settle down comfortably and hear the full story. At first, various Vanaras tried to tell in bits and pieces and in a somewhat rambling manner the story of their futile search for Sita on the mainland. Becoming somewhat impatient, Rama interrupted and pointedly asked, "I want to know where exactly Sita is right now and how she is handling her captivity. I am also anxious to know something about her feelings towards me. Who can enlighten me on this matter?" Clearly, this was a question that Hanuman alone could answer, and naturally everyone looked towards the valorous son of Vayu. Acknowledging the signal, Hanuman first turned south and bowed his head by way of paying his respects to Sita. Turning then towards Rama, Hanuman bowed again. Palms joined, he began speaking slowly and said, "Having heard that Sita was in Lanka, I first jumped across the ocean and by your grace landed safely on the southern shore of that island where Ravana lives in a fabulous city. I searched thoroughly everywhere in that city and finally located Sita, held captive in a beautiful grove and guarded by a big contingent of ugly Rakshasis of mean and cruel disposition. Sita is in a pitiable condition and is constantly pining for you. Her mind is totally focused on you and you alone. When I found her, I attracted her attention by narrating the glory and history of the great Ikshvaku dynasty. Subsequently, I gained her confidence and told her everything about how you came into contact with Sugriva and entered into an alliance. For her part, she narrated an incident concerning a mean crow that pestered her persistently while you both were in Chitrakuta. She added that when I recount this incident known only to the two of you, you would immediately be convinced that I actually met her. She further commanded me to repeat to you every detail of the meeting between us and the conversation we had. In addition, she also gave me this jewel to be handed over to you." So saying, Hanuman handed over to Rama the jewel that Sita had given to him, and he continued, "When we parted company, Sita asked me to specifically inform you that she had been given a deadline by Ravana to submit to him. She obviously would never do that, which means that if you do not quickly rescue Sita, she would give up her life. O Rama, this clearly demands that we must find a way of crossing over to Lanka as quickly as possible, eliminate Ravana, and rescue Sita well before the deadline set by her." Rama listened carefully, and when Hanuman concluded, he spent some time looking lovingly at the jewel sent by Sita. Tears welled in his eyes as he pressed the jewel closely to his bosom. Speaking then in a voice choked with emotion, Rama said to Sugriva, "Dear friend, as I see this jewel, my feelings are the same as that a cow has when she sees her lost calf. And my heart melts, even as milk gushes forth from the mother cow. This jewel was presented by Emperor Janaka to Sita on the occasion of her marriage. and its sight brings back memories of Sita wearing it on her hair. Found in the sea, the gem was adored by the gods, on behalf of whom Indra presented it to King Janaka, pleased with the yajna performed for propitiating the gods of heaven. After saying all this, Rama became so emotional that he asked Hanuman to repeat once more the entire conversation the latter had with Sita, in particular the incident of a violent attack by the son of Indra disguised as a crow. Hanuman did just that, recalling also how Sita repeatedly urged the Vanara to prevail upon Rama to hasten to Lanka and rescue her as quickly as possible. At the same time, said Hanuman, Sita also wondered how exactly Rama and Lakshmana would cross the ocean. In her view, only 3 beings could do so, namely Garuda, Vayu and myself. That being the case, the princess of Videha was unsure how the invasion of Lanka would ever take place. I had to assure her that amongst the members of Sugriva's army, I was relatively junior. It is juniors, I reminded Sita, that are sent on errands and not the seniors, who are far more capable in every respect. Thus, if I could cross over to Lanka, so could the seniors, in fact with far greater ease. My parting prayer to her was to be courageous and cling to her deep faith in you. I told her emphatically, O godlike lady, soon you would see Rama and Lakshmana at the gates of Lanka, following which Ravana would be promptly exterminated. Since by that time the period of exile would have ended, you would not only rejoin Rama, but also make a triumphant re-entry into Ayodhya. Having made sure that my words brought some cheer and hope, I then hastened to rush back and report to you. I think I have said all that needs to be said. Well, that brings to an end the famous Sundarakanda. However, unlike Hanuman, I shall not say that I have said all there is to be said because there are a few words that I would like to add. Let me start with the fact that this particular kandam is a great favorite of the devotees of Rama. That is understandable, but in my opinion, devotion should not lead to loss of perspective. Let me explain what I mean. In India, there is an old tradition according to which some religious activity or the other is often taken up as an offering to God and then performed over a span of 7 days. This is referred to as Saptaham. And those of you who have been here during Dasara time would recall that during this period Bhagwan Baba arranges to have an yajna performed that is spread over 7 days. Some of you might remember that when I started on this serial, I explained why kings of old often perform yajnas. Basically, it was to win some favor or the other from God Almighty. Swami, on the other hand, has the yajnas performed here for 2 major reasons. The first is to introduce the younger generation to the traditions of old, which are rapidly disappearing. The second and the more important one is that this yajna is dedicated to world peace. By making his yajnas free from specific individual wishes, what Baba is silently saying is, "Oh man, don't perform rituals as if it's a business deal. Do it as a selfless offering and leave it at that. If God is really pleased and convinced that you have done whatever it is with a pure heart and for common good, then He sure would reward you in His own way. He knows better than you, always, what exactly your needs are. You can never fool God with pretensions, for He is within you all the time and can watch your thoughts better than you can." There is a specific reason why I am mentioning all this. Many years ago, I heard a radio discourse on Sundarakandam, which originated from the Madras station of All India Radio. The speaker, obviously a rather traditional man and given to pleasing his audiences, started by saying, "Are you having problems? Is your daughter not getting married? Is your son not able to get a job? Don't worry. Read the Sundarakandam in one stretch lasting 7 days and you would be home. Results guaranteed." That might sound like a toothpaste advertisement, but honestly, That is more or less what the speaker said. I won't entirely blame him, for there has long been a folklore that doing a Saptaham of the Sundarakandam is a sure cure for all problems. Now I must make it absolutely clear here that I know what Swami says about absolute faith, etc. At the same time, during all the years I have spent here, I have taken the trouble to go carefully through a lot of Swami's teachings. As a result of that, I do know for a fact that Swami does not want our faith to make God into something like an ATM machine. I mean, you don't go and tell God, I would do this ritual or whatever in 7 days flat, and you should reward me by doing this for me or making such and such a thing happen. In the beginning, just to motivate us to get serious about spirituality, God might even grant what one asks for. However, one is soon expected to get over that phase and move on, even as one goes from one class to a higher class in a school. Over the years, I have noticed a strong tendency among some devotees at least to reduce God to some kind of a formula. They hang on to their formula which they feel is sure and tested, even when Swami advises them not to. After a while, Swami stops advising them, and they take that for the final approval. Some of you may think I am making all this up. No, I am not. And shall now briefly narrate the story of a certain devotee, now no more, a story that Swami himself told students many years ago in Vrindavan. It was during one of those famous Trai sessions that used to take place after evening bhajans, with a select audience that consisted mostly of students and some elders. By Swami's grace, I was one of them, and that's how I came to hear the story. Swami said that in the late 50s or so, there came to him a man, whom I shall call Ramaya. There is a name change here, and this is often done in the broadcast business for obvious reasons. Okay, there was this Ramaya, and Swami accepted him and asked him to serve in Prashanti Nilayam. Back then, the ashram was real small, and Ramaya had to look after everything. There was no canteen, and twice a day, every day, he would check out who all would be present for the next session, and after taking Swami's permission, arrange food to be cooked for exactly that number. Sometimes this caused problems, but Ramaya simply did not care. He was so particular about following rules that he often became very rigid. This is what is often referred to as being holier than the Pope. Anyway, that was the way this person was, and soon he earned the reputation of being very rude and almost a tyrant. Inevitably, people complained to Swami, and Swami also advised this person again and again to control his temper. Unfortunately, his gunas were so strong that there was zero behavioral change. And so it went on for years. Devotees were treated harshly, they complained, Swami advised, but friend Ramaya went on exactly as before. And then came a day when Ramaya fell sick. Soon his illness became quite serious. He lived all alone in a room without any help. At this stage, he needed a lot of help, but hardly anyone would come forward to bring him food, medicine, or whatever. Things became pretty bad, and Swami was told about it. Swami then immediately went to Ramaya's room and saw that he was in a truly pathetic condition. Not only was he very sick, but worse, he was lying in his own excreta, covered with infection all over. Swami then personally cleaned the sick man and comforted him, while Ramaya wept all the time. He then asked, Swami, I have served you so hard and with such loyalty all these years, and yet look at my fate now. Why did you allow this to happen to me, Swami? Why did you? Are you not God? Did I not, leaving my family, serve you, i.e. God, all these years? What wrong did I do? Why this harsh punishment? Swami paused at this stage in his narration to us and then slowly resumed. He told us, this is what I said to that poor sick man. Ramaya, yes, you served me very well personally, and I know that you really loved me. That precisely is why I am here with you right now. Don't you see that no one else is here and that all the others have in fact avoided you? Wiping his tears, Ramaya asked, "Why is that, Swami? Why did you punish me like that?" Swami softly replied, "Bangaru, God does not punish. God only helps, always. And see, that exactly is what I am doing right now. It is man who brings punishment to himself through his acts. Have you forgotten how many times I told you not to be rude and even cruel at times? You never paid attention to my repeated warnings. Instead, you are a slave to your baser instinct of anger. Anger is like fire. It would consume the person who submits to it. That exactly is what has happened to you. All that ill will that you have generated for yourself for years and years, despite my repeated warnings, are now coming back to you. With me you are different, and that's why I am here. Just imagine how different it would have been if you had treated others also kindly." As Swami finished his story, there was total silence in the hall. Swami then turned to late Mr. V.K. Narasimhan, then the editor of Sanatan Sathya, and asked him, "What Narasimhan, do you remember that fellow?" Mr. V.K. replied, "Of course I do, Swami, and also how you constantly advised him, and how he ignored your advice, and how in the end it was only you who went to help him." Swami then turned to the students and said, "Boys, there is a lesson for you. Don't package God into one single body like the one standing before you and imagine you have the license to do what you want to others. If you do that, you would receive a bill someday or the other. I take all this trouble day after day, not merely to give you proximity and for you to have a wonderful time. Yes, I do want you to enjoy bliss in Swami's company. But more than anything else, I use this opportunity to teach you many things, most important of which is that you must cultivate a Vishala Bhavam and a Vishala Drishti." What Swami meant was that devotees must expand their heart by filling it with pure love and also cultivate a broad mind. Today, most of the problems are caused by ego, which makes one mean, petty, and jealous. Once those infections get embedded, then hell can and does break loose. It is getting rid of those infections that should be our prime concern. And that is what we must attempt with full faith. We must say, "Swami, you want our hearts to be pure and free from contamination. Good. I want to make my heart so good that I can offer it to you with full confidence that it is pure enough for that purpose. Please help me, Swami." And how do we make sure that the heart is getting purer and cleaner? When we see that we do not easily get jealous, angry, mean, etc. That kind of lesson, by the way, is scattered all over the Ramayana. And I do hope you are able to catch at least some of it during my narration. Thank you for being with me, and I now wish to take your leave. Next week I shall start on the Yuddha Kandam, which would see Ravana defeated and Rama finally crowned. As always, I offer this talk at the lotus feet of our beloved Swami. God bless you all, and Jai Sai Ram.